Welcome to the very first episode of The Brag. So, what is The Brag? Well, on The Brag, we get female entrepreneurs to come on and brag. Just talk about all of their successes. I will be asking them questions that get them to brag. I will be bragging for them if they do not brag enough. And what's the point of all of this? Well, the point of all of this is the fact that we know it is difficult out there for female entrepreneurs. And this is not just an assumption or something that's made up. We have the statistics to back this up. Everybody knows this number by now. Around only 2% of female entrepreneurs get VC funding. Another number that a lot of people may not know is that, generally speaking, women entrepreneurs are 20% more likely to be rejected for bank loans. However, on the flip side, women-led tech startups generally have 35% higher ROI. So what the hell is going on? There is a huge disconnect. And that is exactly what I want to do with this podcast. I want to give female entrepreneurs the voice and the place to be able to brag, to be able to self-promote, and as a result, hopefully get more customers, more bank loans, and more funding, and more success faster. But let's go into why I actually started this in the first place. Well, I've always been really, really, really passionate about having more women contributing to entrepreneurship. And recently I was listening to another podcast, funnily enough, by a really famous person. And they had a speaker on there who was talking about social dynamics and psychology. And this guy is like big doctor, well known. And he just said something to me that really struck me. He was talking about how, generally speaking, if a woman self-promotes, she's condemned. If a man self-promotes, he's celebrated. And you know what? I have literally experienced this firsthand myself within my career, where I've had situations where I've self-promoted and unfortunately my manager has only put me down. Whereas on the flip side, this was a woman, by the way, she was promoting male counterparts on my team for the very same thing. I was like, didn't even notice at the time, right? But now looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, we do have a problem. And I'm not just making this up. The statistics are out there. We know that they exist. Women are 40% less likely to self-promote. And this is exactly one of the reasons why, because generally speaking, they receive that backlash. Because of this, here's another statistic. Women who don't self-promote are 50 to 70% less likely to receive stretch assignments within their job, meaning that they're less likely to get promoted. If this is what's happening within the professional landscape or within the job landscape for women, what's to say that this is not one of the reasons why it's not happening within the entrepreneurial ecosystem? So, without further ado, let's just get stuck in. I am so excited to have our first guest, Hannah. And I think you will agree with me. She just has a fantastic story of resilience and being able to spot opportunities and just turn things around so quickly. So without further ado, let's get started and talk to Hannah. Hey, morning, Hannah. Welcome to The Brag. Super excited to have you as our very first guest. For anybody that doesn't know you, this is Hannah. Hannah is in the startup ecosystem now for a couple of years, right? Since like 21, 22. She first started her business Accrue, which was a learning platform, which didn't work out in the end, but gave some fantastic learnings. And then in the last 7 months, Hannah has just exploded with her Pilates reformers machine. So yeah, just super excited that you're here, Hannah.
Thank you so much, Leah. I am honored to be your first guest, and I'm very excited to chat about everything. And I think what you're doing is amazing. I love the idea behind the brag. I do think as women entrepreneurs and women in general, we don't brag enough. But then in particular, I feel like there's an extra nuance when it comes to Irish, just being Irish and bragging. But if you brag and you being like branded a bragger is probably the worst thing you to be branded with in Ireland. So I love that extra nuance. So you can't, you couldn't be too full of yourself or whatever. So yeah, you might have to call me out at certain points in this podcast if I am just leading with self-depreciation, just because it's how I was reared.
No problem. I can do that. I've done my research. I've read a couple of amazing articles that have come out about you recently. So don't worry, we're going to make sure that you definitely brag. But it's such a good point that I did not even think of. All right, let's dig in. So I'd love to start by just asking, how did your background in psychology first spark your entrepreneurial spirit?
I think I wanted to study psychology because I was always just fascinated about the human brain and how the mind works and behavior. And I think that led me to just be, in general, a little bit more curious about how people think and how they act and how people want problems solved and things like that. So that led me to a career in learning and development where I was working over in London, just organizing training for one of the world's largest procurement consultancies. And it was really there that I noticed some problems that could be solved potentially. And that's where I decided to start my first venture. It was really just a kind of why not just go for it situation. I had no idea if it was work. I didn't really know any other entrepreneurs at all. I had no idea what I was doing, but it was just that kind of what do I have to lose element that decided to go for it.
Amazing. And here you are. And can you tell us about your first startup in the tech learning platform, and what did the experience teach you?
Yes. So I noticed a problem in terms of I was booking a lot of trainers and coaches for the organization I was working for at the time. And I realized that I would have to go to their LinkedIn profiles or their websites, and there was a lot of email back and forth. So the problem I noticed was that it just was taking too long for learning and development professionals to book trainers and coaches. So I was listening to a podcast about a florist marketplace. And I was like, why isn't there something like that for learning and development? So it was kind of just that bit of curiosity. But I had set my mind at the time as well to, I want to start a business. So that's why I was listening to the podcast. So I think once you set your mind towards something, then all of your actions start to follow it. So it was kind of one step after the other. And I worked on that for a few years, and that's what got me into the NDRC accelerator, which is the national accelerator in Ireland, which was incredible. And during that accelerator, then pivoted to a more of a subscription based platform where people could sign up their teams and they would have access to unlimited live training. So this took all the stress out of the booking of training. But that as well was, we got some customers on and it was going okay-ish, I would say, until some of the big tech layoffs. So that really didn't help. But I guess really the learnings from that was that it really comes down to what we was kind of drilled into us in the accelerator in terms of is it a painkiller or is it a vitamin?
Yeah.
And I think that was some hard learnings, but some really important learnings in terms of finding a problem worth solving and is there actually a market for it? And I think you can as well, because I was the target customer, I fell into a trap as well of thinking that everybody needed this because I needed this and I'm a learning and development advisor, so everyone else would need this too. Which, yeah, you really can't skip on that customer validation piece. That's probably the biggest learning. And it made me really decide there and then if I ever go back into entrepreneurship that I wasn't going to get out of bed for an idea that I hadn't fully validated in the market.
Yeah, it's so true. And you just make some really good points there. Is like that timing is just so critical, right? Like we don't things can happen overnight that completely destroy companies that are even well established, let alone a startup. um, and I love that a podcast influenced you. There you go, right? The power of podcasts and the voice.
Exactly.
And just kind of going off script a little bit, but you just mentioned about being sparked. I'd love to go back and like, can you remember that pivotal moment when you were like, yeah, I definitely want to start my own business and I want to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah. It was in 2020. So it was very lockdown energy. And I think, you know, for some people, lockdown was, a time of reflection and slowing down. And I had a chance to kind of reflect on my life, try to journal and all of this other wellness stuff that we were all getting into. And I was, exercising a bit more. And it was a great time to just press pause on what had been a crazy rat race few years in London. So, like most people in London, we were going out all the time and we were having a really good fun time in our early 20s in the first few years.
Yeah.
But then COVID was a great just chance to stop going out and thinking about what actually I want to do with my life. So it was really just a few weeks of properly taking care of my mental health and journaling and walking. And I stopped drinking alcohol altogether as well. I can't say that that didn't influence my decision because I stopped drinking alcohol. And then 4 weeks later, I had the idea for a cruise. So
Love it.
they're really, yeah, it wouldn't have happened. One wouldn't have happened without the other. So
Yeah.
that was really the moment. It just was like, yeah, no, I actually, what can my life be and what's limiting me at the moment? And I just realized that was really limiting me. And in terms of I wasn't reaching my full potential, I was like, if I want to own a business, just go for it. Why not just start? So I just started researching different ideas and listening to business podcasts from there.
Love it. That moment of clarity. And how did the challenges of your first startup approach or shape your approach to building Flexera?
I think again because I was, and Flexera is a business where we sell reformer Pilates machines and also an app for classes. And I, at the time, I'm obsessed with reformer Pilates. So I fell into the category again of I could be the target customer because I found I wasn't doing reformer Pilates enough. I wanted to do it more. And the studios near me were all booked up or were too expensive for my salary at the time to be able to go as many times as I wanted. So I just seen that there was a problem there of like, why can't I do this at home? Like I can do everything else at home. Like spinning came home and rowing, there's rowing machines at home and all of these other things. So I just like, why can't I do this at home as well? So that was really the moment, the light bulb kind of moment of, I need to start Googling this and see if this is a thing.
Yeah.
Because if not, I should be the one to do this. And then again, because I didn't want to fall into the same trap of being the number one target customer and inflating my idea of the demand. So I just wanted to really do a lot of market research. So I created just a really bare bones landing page on Wix, kind of a wait list. And I also created a very bad Instagram page with dodgiest Canva tiles you've ever seen, and just messaging people on who were following big studios around Ireland, and just asking what would they do my survey basically. And the survey was, I think the survey was a good tool again from listening to podcasts and from educating myself on things around trying to gather market validation. The survey was quite like broad to begin with, and then kind of went quite down narrow. So it was like, how often do you do reformer Pilates? Things like that. How much are you spending on reformer Pilates? Do you think you get to do it enough? Have you ever considered one, getting one for the home? And then it kind of came down more narrow to, please buy this, more or less. Like, would you buy one of these reformers? They existed, and add your email address to join the wait list for this reformer. So and then I got over 100 people but it did take a couple of months of really just plaguing people on Instagram. I got blocked by Instagram a few times for sending too much. So that wasn't without its challenges though, just messaging people and just seeing if I could get as many signatures as I could or email addresses. And I had over 100. And then I thought, okay, I kind of said to myself, if I can get over 50 or if I can get over 100, it might be something worth exploring. And when I got to the 100 mark, I was like, okay, this is the validation I need.
Love it.
And let's get to the next step. I'm not saying I'm going to have to go all the way, but this is what I need for now.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Because I think as founders, we can get stuck in that creation mode, right? Of like, oh, everybody's going to love this. This is a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
But no, you took your learning and you were like, no, market validation. And I guess that huge response was also telling you that the market is, the right time as well.
Yeah, there literally is no business if you don't have customers. That's as simple as it is. And I wish I knew that, many years ago. But if there is no demand, then you have no customers. So that's really it. And that's fundamentally the most important thing. And how you figure out if there's demand is, are you solving a real problem?
Yeah.
And where does this problem fall in somebody's list of problems that they're thinking about?
Yeah. Yeah. No, and like I'm just so inspired by you because as well, I find that a lot of the time within our ecosystems, there's a lot of celebration around funding, funding achievements, which is great, like amazing. But at the same time, isn't the whole reason why we're starting a business in the first place for customers. So it's very refreshing to see that like, you're out there, you're doing it, you're making it happen and you've hit this milestone, which is just fantastic. Over 100 customers in 7 months is just, absolutely amazing. So just wanted to shout that out. Um and then in terms of Pilates itself, what was the exact moment that you realized reformer Pilates could be more than just a personal passion? And I think you've touched off this already, obviously, with the huge response that you got. But I guess, yeah, anything to kind of add.
Yeah, I guess I think I have been, since that time in 2020 when I got back into fitness and health and taking care of myself, I have been, kind of regularly, if not mostly consistent in the gym or some sort of exercise or home workouts at the time in lockdown. So I have been really into health and wellness and fitness, and I had always looked at Reformer Pilates nearly as something that was aspirational because of the price point, particularly in central London. So when I got my chance to go to my first reformer class, I basically saved up all of my credits on a class pass free trial. I think I had to use every single one of them to get in the door of this reformer studio that was in South Kensington. But it was beautiful. And I just was like, oh, this is bougie. I need all of this. This is so nice. It was not only just the vibe of the studio that was amazing, but it was also the just lying on the reformer for the first time and just even though I was absolutely panicked because I was like, where does my legs go and what's this machine? Once we got into it, I was like, this really is combining like what I do in the gym when I'm weightlifting, but also what I do when I'm stretching or doing yoga. And it just felt like I was doing all of it at the same time, really. Like I was stretching, increasing my flexibility, doing strength training because of the weights of the spring. So I was just getting and working every single muscle group in the body. And I just so enjoyed it. And the mindfulness. And um, I think the element of mindfulness that I had really just gotten into in terms of mindfulness and meditation when I was in my lockdown, wellness girly era, the fact that I recognize that on the reformer in terms of how much mind to muscle there is and the breath work, every single, you know, instruction you get includes an instruction on if it's an in breath or an out breath. So I just fell in love with the fact that I was just ticking all of my wellness boxes in one day. I feel like for people who like to be efficient, that's maybe where reformer fits in because you're like, did I start today up? Did I do breath work today up? It's just like in one foul swoop, you've ticked it all off. So that's when I fell in love with it, and I consistently went to classes. Then for 2 years after that, I just was like, well, I'm just gonna have to make this work in my budget somehow. If I have to eat out of bins, so be it. But and then this is my new hobby and my new passion, and I just couldn't get over the physical changes I noticed as well, and on top of like mental health and things, but also I was just getting results that I hadn't been getting in years of consistency in the gym in terms of what I wanted from muscle definition and things like that. So I was just like, we are sleeping on, I know it's obviously getting more popular, but I was like, it's not nearly as popular as it needs to be or should be because of all of these benefits. So that's when I thought, not only is this a hobby, but there's also a huge opportunity here.
I'm totally sold just listening to that. I got a direct. I will definitely be a customer. No, I've just been like getting back into meditation again recently, and I um just been learning about the science behind it. And one of the fascinating things about it is that when we sleep, our brain rests, but our body doesn't rest. So it's so important to be doing things that allows your body to rest. I think we're so disconnected from our body. So it's just amazing listening to you talk about, yeah, how it just connects you on all those levels and the benefits, reap the benefits, especially as an entrepreneur. Like you need to look after yourself physically and mentally because you are that engine. So if you start to break, things start to break. So yeah,
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
sad.
And I found reformer in the when I was in the depths of really trying to push my first startup forward, it was a very, very hard summer. And I just wasn't, every day I would wake up and do sales from 9 till 5 and try my best to get sales meetings. And it was just so difficult because again, when I was selling something that people didn't particularly want, so there's nothing harder than that. Really, to be honest. But it was just, I don't think people realize when you start a B2B startup that your job is just sales.
Yeah.
That's all you do, basically. So I didn't realize that at the time. So, but it was just a really tough summer of not getting any wins and every day just getting a rejection or getting ghosted. So I found it at the perfect time where I would just, my head was honestly scrambled, but I would just lie on that reformer and they were just quiet. There we go. Yeah, that's what I need.
I'm okay now. And it's especially hard, isn't it? I guess when you don't have a background in sales and then you need to go into sales. It's a tough one. What did you do different the second time round from that sales perspective, I guess?
From a sales perspective, well, firstly, starting a direct to consumer business, the sales is completely different. I don't feel like I'm selling at all. I don't feel like I haven't sent, multiple emails to anybody, whereas I probably sent 7 to 14 emails to one person, to multiple people that you're doing a B2B sales. So it doesn't feel like sales at all. It just feels like, posting on Instagram and sending a few emails about the machines and just talking to people and hosting events. And it just feels so much nicer.
Yeah.
And the direct to consumer, I'm only in the door, but I'm a big fan because it doesn't feel, but I feel like we do have a negative. There is, unfortunately, sales gets a negative rep. And I think people are so afraid they have a mental block to do sales because they think it's going to be this sleazy salesman or saleswoman that you see in all of these like movies where though sales is depicted as somebody winning and somebody losing.
Yeah.
Where so everyone has a mental block of because you feel like you're taking advantage of somebody. So I think most people start off with that in mind and have such a negative mindset in terms of doing sales. But now having had that experience, hats off. Salespeople, I see you, I respect you, thank you for your service.
So hard. Oh my gosh. I think it makes a difference though, right? You know, the way there's that advice out there to startups always like find what you love, find your passion, but it's like why? Do you know? And I guess that's a really important thing that you touch off of there, which is that, when you got to do that daily slog, it's just so much easier when you are selling something that you literally love.
Yeah, 100%. I think you do have to be obsessed with the product that you're selling or it's just so difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. No, totally. And then how, I don't know, did you kind of answer this already, but how did you identify the gap in the market for a home-friendly reformer machine?
I had that moment of why can't I do this whenever I want?
Yeah.
I should do this at home. And I fought it for a while because I was in the middle of moving home. I was moving home from London to Dublin for a job. My friend and the founder of Uvo, Kate, was very kind to take me in as this when my startup was failing. Her and I met in the NDRC accelerator. And she was like, oh, why don't you join Ugo for a few months just while you're finding your feet when things aren't going so well with the crew. So I was moving back to Dublin to join her. And I felt my accommodation in Dublin wasn't great. I was honestly quite low.
Yeah.
And I was trying to fight the idea of doing Flexera. I just really was like, no, you're starting a new job. You've one startup failing. You're moving country. You're leaving all your friends behind in London. Just focus on one thing and just, don't to stop doing this. But my friends all laughed because when I was leaving London at my going away party, I was like, guys, I have a new idea. But they have heard me with like 10 different ideas. So they were like, please stop. Well, so it's funny that we can laugh about it now.
I know.
But I did fight it for a long time. And I think it was around the January time. I had been home about 3 months. I had been really sick over the Christmas, just like flu. My room was moldy. And then for some reason, I had 7 credits of Reformer to use by the end of the month. And I was like, oh, God. And anyone who knows how valuable those credits are, they're like €20 a pop. I was like, I have to do have to go 7 times. I have to go every day. That there's no other way around it. So I went to reformer every single day for 7 days.
Love it.
And I just honestly, I can't even describe the difference in my mental health. I felt just lighter from a time where I was really low.
Yeah.
I felt just obviously my chest opening up and everything after being sick for so long. So just was like this, that was, I had already had the light bulb moment of this could be a good idea.
Yeah.
But I think that moment where I was like, no, this actually has to be exist because I have to give this opportunity to other people. Not that I have to say everybody has to do reformer every day to see the benefits, not at all, but it's just to do it as much as you want, to have the option to do it. So that's when I was like, okay, I need to start looking into this properly and seriously and researching to see if there was anything out there that was similar. And just what I found was there were some foldable reformers, but they were, metal. They weren't going to look good in the home. They were massive, or most of the reformers didn't fold at all and were, studio reformers. I was like, I don't think my housemates are going to be really happy if I bring this home. So I was just trying to find, was there anything out there that could be aesthetic? And then in terms of the price point, the price was also way out of my range as well. So I was just like, okay, I need to create something that's slightly more affordable, slightly more accessible, aesthetic, looks good in the home, bold, kind of compact, but still has that studio quality and studio feel. So when I couldn't find anything like that easily on the market, then that's when I was like, well, here we go. It's time to look for a manufacturer.
Love it. Let's make that happen. And then yeah, let's just lead on with that actually. That's how did you find your manufacturer and what were the challenges around that? Because I think that's always quite an interesting piece of the story for product businesses, right?
Yeah. It is a challenging, it's a challenging journey. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of conversations. It takes a lot of research, but it's not more difficult than anything else in terms of we're in an age of information. We have all access to so much information on the internet. We can, we can look things up. We can send emails. We can do all of these kind of things. So while it was time consuming, it wasn't challenging. But the hardest thing with these things is you have to make a decision. Am I going to go and visit a manufacturer and visit multiple manufacturers, or am I going to take a chance on putting in a sample order of with what I want from the manufacturer and just hope for the best? So I was with very limited budget. I actually, my mom, is the first kind of angel investor. So she went with me, fair play to her. We just put in like a very, very small order. I cleared out my savings, and we both put in, a little amount, and then we got 3 reformers that were the first sample ones. So they were 3 different models, and they, took a while to come. And then by eventually when they came, so this whole time, I was like, if these come and they're not good, I am just completely back to the drawing board. And I've it'll just be such a long journey again to go back. And I have to say, I was so, so lucky. But I was up to 90 every day until they arrived, because I don't know what they're going to be like. So when they did arrive and I inspected them and got, engineers to inspect them and everything, and made sure that they were of the quality that was suitable and safe for people, and also they were stunning. It was honestly one of the happiest moments ever in this journey, because it was just such a sigh of relief. But had they not been, I would have kept going. I would have somehow worked another while and used my salary to find a different supplier, or I would have gone to visit multiple different factories as well. So you can just take a chance, or you can go to where you think that they're going to be best made, and visit multiple different people.
So, so lucky. Well, you made that luck as well, right? What was the kind of, did you get to do any due diligence on them beforehand, or is it just you have to take it at face value? What did that look like?
They have a range of certification and things like that. And you can speak to old customers and you can look at their reviews and things like that, and testimonials from other customers. But there is still an element of risk. There definitely is some element of risk. As you're working with anybody, you never know how things are going to go. And I think as well, what's important to note is things might not, things might be perfect for the first while. You might see problems by, you know, by order 100 that you would not have been able to predict by order one. So it's a very different supplier now than what it was in the first week because of things that, you know, you can find things that, you know, different quirks and things you have to work through.
Yeah.
So even if you do, like my advice to other entrepreneurs, even if you do pick one supplier, have multiple backup ones in the wings for sure, manufacturers in the wings, and just, you know, you have to kind of create that contingency plan.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense, especially as you scale and you don't know where they're going to be as well as a business. Makes total sense. And then what challenges did you face in the designing a reformer that looks like an elegant piece of furniture?
Um, you know, I mean, the key parts of the design element was I was most excited by the color side of things because I was interested in looking at, you know, what are the key colors that people are doing in their homes at the moment. You know, stage is a really popular color in the home at the minute, and then kind of beige and neutrals and stuff like that. So for the mocha, and I knew a lot of people would have home gyms, so a black one would make sense. I fell in love with the ivory one instantly. So I really wanted the ivory one, but then I realized, you know, for studios and things like that, that doesn't make the most sense when we have, you know, us crew our time coming in and makeup and stuff. So
Yes.
that part was the most fun, but it was also it's really hard to go from a swatch to what the final product is. So and there's you know, it's not always gonna look exactly like it looked on the swatch. So it took, you know, to get mocha, I think we went through maybe 6 iterations. And I had, you know, an interior designer, a customer who was an interior designer helped me decide on the final mocha swatch. And my friends who are graphic designers and UX designers who know actually about like color codes really try to help because it was just so difficult to get that color of mocha. It was coming out very chocolate brown at at the beginning. So, uh, yeah, so that part. And I just knew the wood element as well. You know, most furniture in our homes you know, is wooden or oak. So
Yeah.
I think the combination of these kind of matte colors that look luxurious and look nice in the home with a really high quality oak varnish finish, I think was this is going to be beautiful.
Love that. I love that you really thought through and did your research around what the market actually wants right now and what the trends are. Also, just you touched off of it, but I want to shout out because I know you are so good at this. Starting out with limited resources and just getting everybody involved, like friends, family, on every level. I love that. I think that's like true entrepreneurial spirit right there. You're like, don't have all the money right now, but how do I make this happen?
Yeah, I had played my friends and family with this startup, to be honest, and I think it's so different from my last one. I think if you know, if somebody met my mum in a supermarket last, you know, 2 years ago when I was working on a crew, and they asked her what's she working on, mum be like, you know, learning something. You know, none of my family knew what I was doing, and it was a lot more lonely because it was just me. When I say this is now really a fully fledged family business, it really does feel like it. I have my dad driving around the country collecting reformers.
Brilliant.
My mom is flat out. She's honestly like a chief operational officer in terms of planning logistics. So, you know, heavy with the bubble wrap to make sure that the reformers are nicely wrapped before we send them off to each person. Like, no, I obviously haven't thought of that. Thank you so much. So, and I have, you know, my friend Leo created my logo and branding and everything. So I've just been and yet another friend Connor who's helped out so much. Everybody is really just like all hands on deck, and I appreciate it so much. And I think because it's easy to grasp as well. They don't feel like what is this girl doing on her computer cell and learning technology. Everybody understands what this business is. So it takes a village.
It really does. And I think you touch off of such an important point there around understanding what the actual business is as well. We've just had that recently, that similar experience, and we've got the whole family now helping with social media because they're like, yeah, now we know what you're actually doing. But it's like, I think there's always this, and especially in the tech space, this thing around how you need to come up with something so unique and so innovative and so different. But that's not always necessarily the best idea for your first business. I think if you can take something that's existing and just fill a gap in the market, I mean, amazing. I think that's just fantastic, right? That's real entrepreneurship right there.
Well,
And
100%.
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And there's a lot to be said as well, I think, of for going against the grain in terms of what a VC might determine to be a good business, because there's a lot with my business at the moment that might not have looked good on paper at the very early days. I did get rejected from
Yes.
some programs and, and from some, potential investors and things like that in the early days when it was a concept, because there's a lot of things that VCs don't love, which is one, it is a product. So it's not ultimately scalable, like overnight turn on a light switch and then everybody has it in their house. So that there's that issue.
Yeah.
And I think another issue is because the reformer is already a product that exists in the marketplace, it's difficult to get a full on patent on certain designs. So it's not, this version of it isn't patentable yet. We're working towards a patentable version.
Yeah.
So, a product with no patent. So there's just a lot of things that could have been going against it, but it all comes down to demand. And I think once you have demand, all of that stuff is noise. And then, once you're making revenue, then all these other doors will open.
Totally. And then I think as well, a really strong point that you have is the brand. And I mean, that's you, like you represent that brand. Nobody can replace Hannah. So I think that's in itself is such a huge USP, right? That a lot of people don't even think about, especially when it comes to this type of B2C product. Because what you've done on Instagram is just amazing. So cool. Um, and then, yeah, so what was like and you've touched off of some of these already as well, but what were some of kind of the most nerve-wracking moments when you were first launching Flexera?
Yes, nerve-wracking moment number one was the arrival of the reformers, the sample reformers, and seeing what they were going to be like. I had also promised it to, at that time, I had also heard about Joanna McNally on her podcast, on her My Therapist Goes to Me podcast with Vogue Williams, who said she was manifesting a reformer for her home and a comedy special on Netflix. So I had my friends were blowing up. And this again speaks to the point that once your friends understands your business, they're going to be out there in the world finding, customers or leads or influencers for you. So my friends were texting me about, you have to listen to the new episode. Joanne wants a reformer. And at the time, the sample reformers hadn't arrived yet. But I was still like, sure. Hi, Joanne. Do you want this boy? I'm a new business starting off. I can't believe you've just said this on the podcast. This is madness, because I had a list of people who I would like to have worked with,
Yeah.
and Joanne was on the list. So she manifested her former. I manifested her. It was just the wildest experience and ever. But at the same time, the reformer had not arrived yet. So I was like, I have promised this woman a reformer, and if it comes out looking like a shoebox, I will cry. So yeah, that was a risky moment, and yeah, I'm on the where I had to hold my breath, but it worked out. What was really funny about it was the color wasn't sage, and this one I was speaking about how difficult it is to get colors from swatches to reality. And I had promised her a sage one, and I thought, this is it. She's gonna not want this reformer now because the color is a bit more mint green than sage, and I promised her. And then that day she was putting up a home tour of her apartment and all of her furnishings and her, she had a huge 6-foot mirror and photo frames were all mint green. So it just was the wildest.
Love it.
Like you couldn't have written it, and the sage green one actually wouldn't have gone in her apartment at all. So it was just the weirdest mistake turned happy situation ever. But it was, yeah, that was another really risky moment. But yeah, I was like, thank you, universe. Thank you. So yeah, that was a struggle, but it worked out really perfectly in the end. I applied for some programs that I couldn't get into. That was challenging as well. There was another situation where I really wanted Klarna for the business. I really, really wanted a buy now, pay later solution, because again, one of the cornerstones of the business is I'm really trying to make it more accessible for people. And I know people might say, the product was €2,000. That's not accessible, but it's more accessible than everything else on the market. And I'm really trying to find like payment solutions that work for people. So I was really trying to get Klarna. I went through the whole situation there to try and get approved. And then I got rejected from them because they actually don't support businesses in Ireland yet that are selling for products of over this size. That was a really, really tough setback that day. I cried for hours and I just was like, is this kind of business go ahead? I've promised, flexible payment solutions for people. So that would be a setback. But I think what's interesting is you look back at those setbacks now and all like my advice is when there's any sort of setback like that is just take a day. Like if there's anything that goes wrong when you're like, I just love rotting. If something really bad goes wrong, I just have to rot for a day.
Yeah.
And the next day, handle it. So that's kind of what I do. I was like, okay, this is hell on earth. Let me go and get a little coffee. Let me get into bed. Let me watch some random crap on TV. And then tomorrow I'll deal with it all. And that's, how I get over these things.
Love it. Yeah, I'm the same. Nothing like I'm not really one to watch much Netflix or anything, but every now and again you just need a little binge of like just cocoon, be in your little cocoon. Ah,
Is my favorite hobby.
love it. I love this continued theme in your story, how it's like you're making your luck happen through hard work, but it's like it's just meant to be. There's just something that's like setting up, it's just all the things going in the right direction, which is so cool. I love that. And then how did you approach finding the right manufacturer for your vision? I don't know, did you kind of answer this already? I think you did. Yeah, I think you did. What marketing strategies have been key to selling over 100 units across multiple countries?
Yes. So for us, the key target customer mostly lives on Instagram.
Yeah.
So and again, finding out your customer is also really eye opening as well because I think I had thought that maybe it was like a 21 to 55 range, maybe predominantly women, but more men are getting into it, which is great. And so I thought, okay, that was probably the range I expected. And then actually in reality, when you look at who the customer is, it was actually probably more, 35 to even upwards of 65. So it was just completely different. So that then, that's a lot more Instagram, a little bit of Facebook, which I haven't done too much yet, but will be starting to do. Haven't done an awful lot on TikTok, but that's in the plan, in the pipe work for kind of this year. But Instagram has been great and but firstly, honestly, gifting the reformer to Joanne McNally was incredible. She was amazing.
Yeah.
I owe her my firstborn. If she wants it, I owe her everything. Any organs she was on was so good. She was so she just did the most. She did more than I expected, and there was no contract or anything like that in place because of I had no idea what I'm doing. I had no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So he really just was really kind and did the most. But I think she loved the reformer too. But it was just it was great. So that really helped. And Joanne, I think she grew the followers by around 5,000.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I can probably attribute maybe like 40 odd sales to her at least. So yeah, really, really great. And I think with Joanne, because she comes across really super authentically,
Yeah.
and she talked about, she made light of what most people probably think about when they're considering buying some piece of fitness equipment is this going to be an expensive clothes horse? So I just love that she, talked about that because like that's what people are thinking.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just amazing. I owe her a lot. I'm very grateful for her. So that was one really key thing that worked. And then on top of that, just reels. Reels do quite well of showing how it works. So I really wanted people to see the foldable element so that they could see who could have it at home and they could store it away. So the first ad I kind of pushed was literally just my friend Alicia unfolding and folding up the reformer in my house upstairs. Like it just looks so, and like to this day, I think that's the ad that performs the best, which is mind boggling because it looks like I haven't wiped my camera screen for about 6 years. It looked like it was filmed on like a Nokia. So like, it's just insane that actually performed. But who knows why? But so that just her unfolded and folded it, which is gas because she would have so many people coming up to her, in school as she's a teacher, being like, "I saw you, you're," because I think 600,000 people have seen that as such as gas. So yeah, just reels are really good. And I think yeah, just boost and post. I was just really, to be honest, not, I wouldn't say my marketing strategy is anything people should be having a pen and paper, take it out notes on. That's one of my key goals for this year. It's honestly a miracle to have sold as many reformers as I have because of the marketing strategy was non-existent up until this point. I'm now working with the marketing agency really early on. It's just been a week. So I'm excited to have a bit more structure on that. You know, they have suggestions around top of funnel to lower funnel and like all this kind of stuff. And I was just like, I was just sharing this video of my friend Alicia with my reformer, and that was
Oh, I love it. Wait, how many views did you say that video got?
oh well, it was boosted for months, so
Yeah.
I would say well over 600,000.
Wow. If you think about that, that's like what percentage of the population in Ireland? Love that.
Yeah,
Love
yeah, and I've seen Alicia with that with the reformer.
That's brilliant. No, but look, I think the reality is at the beginning, like you can't have too much structure, right? I mean, you just obviously like you saw these opportunities and probably the fact that it's so natural, that Joanne wanted a reformer and it just like all fit into place, right? Because it's so different than if like you targeted a particular influencer and then it felt more, I don't know, people prefer that authenticity now when it comes to marketing rather than this kind of pure, I don't know, I'm trying to sell you this and this is also shiny and engineered. That's the one.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm still new to the influencer marketing thing. I'm sure I'm going to make a lot of mistakes with it. It's a difficult thing because it's not as if I'm just sending somebody like a lip gloss or a bit of skincare or whatever. The cost of gifting is quite high. So if it doesn't land or if it's not great, yeah, it's a big risk. So yeah, that's something to yeah cautiously do this year. But I think it does, when done right, it really can work.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. As we've seen, which is just absolutely amazing. So just speak.
Done right and like absolutely fluked, then absolutely yes, it can work. Because some people would have said, and like advisors and things would have been like, Joanne isn't in the fitness space. Why are you gifting it to her? But again, when it comes back to just trusting things that were falling into place,
Yes.
that was I was like, this is meant to happen. So I'm just going to do it because I feel like this all happened on purpose. This was supposed to happen. So, and I think this is a huge learning between this startup and my last startup is it felt every day like pushing a boulder uphill last time. Like it felt every day was so difficult to get anywhere. I was just stagnant the whole time. And so I think when things are free flowing, I can see things a little bit clearer in terms of this feels like it might be meant to be. So let's just go with that kind of thing.
No, I love that. And I think it's hard sometimes, isn't it, to realize when you're like, oh, but it's supposed to be hard. I'll just keep going and going and going. When probably actually letting go is far, far better.
100%. Yeah. You're like, I'm supposed to hate my life, right? But this is supposed to be really hard. And actually, it's supposed to be hard, but it's not hard. I think. So yeah, if anybody ever wants to talk to me about like, I'm at this point in my business, should I give up? I'm always happy to chat to them because I didn't see it for a while. I clung on. I was clinger. I clung on for too long.
I hear you. I've done that more than once. Oh, actually, funnily enough, with the brag, it just for, like as soon as I started posting on LinkedIn about it, it was just people were like, "Oh, this is cool," and then I was like, "Oh, wait a minute, this is what it feels like when you're actually doing something that I guess aligns with all of those things around your individual passion for something you want to do, and then actually there's that need as well out there, um, that people want. And look, I know it's a podcast, it's different, but still, it's just that same feeling
Yeah.
of like, wow, there's
No, 100%.
yeah,
If there's demand, you'll feel it. 100%. Yeah.
yeah, and you gotta love social media for that, right? Like it's just so easy to
I know. Yeah. This is the thing as well around like 10 years ago, would I have had this business? Absolutely. 10 years ago, would I have had the first startup either? No, because there wasn't amazing low code. I can't code. There wasn't low code technology that there is today. So it is such a good time for people to start businesses even if they don't know anything about technology. Honestly, you have low code. My first business was a marketplace that was low code. I had them in my two businesses, not one line of code
Yeah.
has been written. Yes. So it really, you can do it without needing code, because of, we talk about timing being a curse, but timing is also huge benefit, because we can all do these things now because of social media, because of access to 1 million customers a day if you're just creating content on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And then, let me see what. Oh, oh yes. So let's talk about funding, because I was reading in a recent article there that was amazing to see, by the way, in the Times, woohoo, Irish Times. Um, what does your 750,000 funding round represent in your entrepreneurial journey and for your business?
This is an interesting one, because I have had on my screensaver of my phone this little mind map visiony board thing that I scribbled out on a piece of paper 4 years ago, I would say. And it just literally is this tiny little mind map of like, have an idea, make sure there is demand, test that there is demand, do demos or do initial pre-launches and things like that, get some customer sales, streamline the marketing sales strategy, raise around. And it goes all the way down to like, I don't even know, exit or whatever. It is literally if anyone looks at my phone, they're like, what is that? I have had raise around as a goal for myself as an entrepreneur, even from the last startup, just because and it could be, I honestly could be like, full honesty, it could be ego. It could be just something that is like, I just want to do it because people say it's hard for women to do. So now I need to do it. I don't know. And that's what's something that's like, I just have this within me that I feel like I need to do it to prove to myself and to prove to other women potentially that they can do it too. When I have had many people say, you don't need to fundraise. Why are you fundraising? Your business is profitable. It's doing good. And that's a great position to be in. I know 100% I'm very lucky to be in that position, but I'm still like, no, I want to because I think the vision I have for the business requires the investment if I want to reach where I think it can go. I think that the home fitness industry is still growing an awful lot every year. The reformer Pilates is growing an awful lot in Ireland, UK, and the US. If we look at where it is in Australia compared to what it is in these places, there's a lot of opportunity there. I think there's huge opportunity for the app that we're building. It's really, really exciting. It's unlike anything that's out there at the minute, and that's what's really exciting. I'm trying to bring that studio feel online, and I think we can really do it successfully. So the app we have at the minute is really helpful for gathering information and getting from our customers and like getting their feedback on what they want. And then the new app is going to be incredible. And I think to just go for it, I want to take on investment. Just go for it. Why not? Like, I'm getting all of the signs that this business can be something big.
Yeah.
So I just feel like I would regret not doing it more than I would regret doing it, I think. Because even if it is the worst idea ever and it doesn't, whatever goes wrong, my ultimate goal is always to become a better entrepreneur. So I will have learned everything that I need to know for the next time. So I'm just like, this is a skill I want to work on. I didn't really have that many opportunities to raise investment last time. Let me just give it a go and see how we get on. And again, it comes back to demand, but somehow it's not been super difficult so far. And I don't want to you know, touch wood.
Yes.
And again, I think when you focus on the business, and I just focus on the business the whole time and growing the business and making the customers happy, that now it's actually like investors can come to you a little bit, which is amazing. And now I'm only just starting, so I might come back in 3 months' time with just could be absolutely distraught and like rocking myself in a corner of a room somewhere. But I think for now, it's not going as bad as I thought it was going to go, which is great. I think we're told it's going to be it's so scary and it's really, really hard and everything for women. And I know it is. And a lot of women have really, hard situations. But hopefully it can be an exception to the rule and make it smooth easier. Because then when we all come out the other side, we will be the investors and it will be so much easier. And that part, like that is what we need.
Exactly. And let's just like hit off a huge misconception out there, which is the fact that, and we know this bias exists, there's been a ton of research done on it, that generally speaking, investors think that women are doing a business for the cause and not for the profitability. But I know you. You are an entrepreneur through and through, and you want to make a profitable business. You want to make money, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, why can't you create impact while making money at the same time? So I just wanted to shout that out. And you've obviously identified a huge market opportunity, which is just absolutely awesome. So I wouldn't be surprised if there'll be a knocking at your doors. For sure.
Hopefully. But I do think there is a sweet spot between um, wanting to create a really profitable business, but also being super passionate about it, as we discussed earlier. And I think when you have a combination of those together, then that's when you have really hit a sweet spot.
Yeah.
My last startup was I super, super, super passionate about soft skills training for tech teens. Like we're in reality, and fully honestly, like no, I wasn't. I was passionate at the beginning about it, but I was more passionate about becoming an entrepreneur rather than the problem I was solving.
Yeah.
So I think and that's a big learning as well. But now being passionate about it and think when I want to get reformed Pilates to as many people who want to have it in their home, we're helping women start studios as well. I'm loving how many studios has been born off the back of Flexera's existence. So there is a huge element of passion now that I have passion, but there's also an opportunity for profitability. And I think when those two kind of Venn diagram overline, then that's when there can be an opportunity for real magic. So definitely do find something that you're passionate about. Does it have to be the thing that you're absolutely the most passionate about in the world? No, but it can't be something that you're like, I don't, you have to really want it to happen as well.
Yeah, I think so. And I think you found that. You found your passion, you found a market, and it's just starting to flow. I can't remember what it's called again, but there's this Japanese saying that like when you find your flow, it's just makes everything so much easier because you're just in it and it's just happening and it's just like, yeah, and I think that's clearly something that you found there. Like all the right pieces are just coming in, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's always important to, and we've touched off of this already, but like just going on the conversation of profitability and now that you're looking for funding, there is a big market there, right? Can you tell us a little bit about what that market looks like? Because that's obviously one of the first things that investors always want to know about the opportunity.
Yes. Market sizing is a really difficult thing. I think, anybody who says that they've nailed their market strategy or market sizing strategy could be lying, because it's a difficult thing to get. It's really more, I feel like it's more of an art than a science in a lot of cases. When I first started, I had the idea that there was maybe 10 to 20,000 reformer Pilates fans in Ireland.
Yeah.
Like fans. That's what I started off with. And then I had a partnership with the reformer studio down the country that has 2 locations, and they have over 1,500 reformer Pilates, or people who come to the studio on a regular basis, essentially. So I was like, okay, so this information on the internet in terms of market sizing was completely off, because that's only one county that's just two studios, 2 small studios that only have 6 to 8 beds in them. So I was like, okay, I have really got this wrong. So I think it's interesting to either go top down and you can look at the internet and you can look at kind of proper reports, and those reports can be quite expensive. But luckily you can access them if you're, within like working with Enterprise Ireland and things like that. There's places where you can get those reports that can help. But also I think just looking at as well from a bottom up perspective as well can be useful, like looking at how many followers you have on Instagram, or what the kind of reach is, or how many views your website is getting, and then actually segregating that into the funnel and being like, well, how many of these are actually considering and really likely to buy a reformer. And I think as well what I did in the early days with the waitlist slash kind of survey was really helpful as well for testing that demand. And I have another one because we're about to potentially launch a rental offering so people can rent a reformer at home. Again, trying to make it anything I can do to trying to make it more accessible.
Yes.
So it's about €150 a month to rent the reformer. You have all that passes, all the
Fantastic.
everything and the accessories. And so that wait list is growing all the time. And I'm not really promoting it. It's just on the Instagram page. So I think looking at it's kind of coming at it from both angles, looking at global trends such as home fitness and where that's going and how much that's growing year on year, and looking at Pilates studios, like Pilates reformer studios, and actually specifically women owned reformer studios increased 300% in searches on Yelp.
Oh,
So
interesting.
love. Yeah. And I think that's like a sneaky part to this business that has come in, is like my obsession with feminism and building women up and helping them build businesses.
Love the
Just like this little Trojan horse that has come with this business, because I just love that people are out here Googling for women owned performer studios. So that part, I think taking those trends and looking at, I think Garmin and Whoop, don't I need to check that, but I think one of those as well quoted that performer Pilates is the one that's growing the most, or Pilates is growing the most in terms of activity that's being logged. So there's a lot of trends like that. There's a lot of market sizing information. And I think if you take it from a bottom up and a top down approach, you can kind of get somewhere in the middle too. That makes sense.
Yeah, love it. And we all know, right? Stress levels are super high. People have access to so much more information now, and people are starting to be more proactive for their physical and mental health. And I think that, that story you told at the beginning around how this helped you so much on a physical and mental level is just huge. And then creating that accessibility, you're making an impact, but at the same time, that creates huge opportunity for a profitable business. And then what's your vision for Flexera in the next 3 years?
The next 3 years, I would like to grow the team. So I think if once we do the investment round, would like to grow the team so I can relieve some of my friends and family who are unpaid labor at the minute and be able to grow the team. So I'll be looking at some marketing support, probably some sales reps and some customer service, ops, tech, definitely some engineers, because like I talked about earlier, the app that is in the pipeline is going to be incredible. And I think some amazing engineers will be able to bring that to life.
Yes.
So that is the goal around, kind of hire and grow the team, which is a really exciting and also very scary thing, because I've been a solo entrepreneur, solo founder for the last time and this time. I've never hired anybody properly. I've had like contractors here and there, but actually a full on hiring, having a team, having to manage them, having to delegate when I now do everything myself, like everything. It'll be a challenge for sure. I know that it will be, but it also, I think, I'm now working in the business rather than on the business.
Yeah.
And I really need to do that. I need to shift that if I want to be able to actually execute on the strategy that I've set out with the app and where it's going to go, and the new locations that we can open in, and the new products to bring out. There's new products to be released as well, which it's just like people are asking for them. So I'm just like, sitting on this product demand that I haven't been able to execute again because I'm doing other things that I shouldn't be doing and I could have helped to do. So yeah, those kind of things. So obviously the fundraise, hiring, building the app, new locations, very luckily have had most of our sales have come from Ireland and the UK.
Okay.
But there have been a few from the US, Abu Dhabi, Switzerland, Spain, Netherlands. So random little dots of people here and there. So just really putting time into exploring which new countries and jurisdictions to look at. Oh, and actually one from Kenya, which we love, a studio opening in Kenya. So, really just looking at where to next. And that would be the goal. I think probably within 3 years, we will have launched in the US for sure. Probably, maybe looking at summertime next year. So summertime 2026, properly put plans in place for that, I would say, off the back of potentially another fundraise, who knows? But yeah.
So world domination on its way.
World domination, a reformer in everybody's house in Ireland and all over the world. Everyone doing it 7 days a week. No, won't. But no, anybody who wants a reformer in their home or to do it a bit more, and it can complement their time at the studio. So you want to go to the studio a couple of times a week, want to do it at home a couple of times a week, even that for me, that's like an ideal world, being able to get into the studio a couple of times a week, but also being able to do it at home when there's a storm outside and you can't leave the house. All these classes are cancelled. I'm getting emails, studios closed, classes are cancelled. And I'm like, not if you have a Flexera, they're not cancelled.
I love that. There you go. And then just looking back, I guess, on personal reflection, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs who are pivoting or starting over?
The entrepreneurs in general, just like go for it. Like if you have an idea, just go for it. What do you actually have to lose?
Yeah.
Like the thing I set out was like, I want a reformer in my home. That is my goal. If nothing else fails, like if all else fails and the startup ends or whatever happens, I have a reformer in my home. So that was my goal. Do you know what I mean? So just like
You did it.
go for it. Like the goal was small, but like I got one. And I think people should just go for it. If you're starting out or pivoting, data, market
Yes.
research. What is the demand there? Do you have a wait list? Can you create a product, put it up on, Wix or something super simple to use, or
Yeah.
Shopify, and make it out of stock so that people are clicking when is this back in stock. Just creating, like, take a tiny bit of spend, put it towards ads, selling the thing you don't even have. If you have like 10 ideas, put ad spend behind all of them and figure out which one of those gets the most clicks.
Yeah.
And the most interest and gets the most people signing up to the wait list. So you can really just workshop and figure out demand before you actually have to build the idea. And I think it's like painted door kind of approach. Pretend that there is something that you're still at, but you might not actually have anything to sell. And sales processes take so long anyways that by the time you actually, do have something to sell, like it'll be moving along if that's in a B2B sense. And if it's for consumer things, people are happy to wait for something that they want. Like the first few orders from us, people have to wait, 12 weeks because they're made to order, because we don't bulk make, because it's still a small company. So people are happy to wait for things that they really want. So you can test the demand, you can test the market, you can take small deposits from people if they're happy to do that. And you can do all of these things to make sure that there is an idea they'll worth pursuing. And I think sometimes the idea of having no startup is scary. And I think that's why maybe I felt I had kind of somehow ingrained my personal sense of identity into being a founder. So the idea of closing down a crew when I had no other startup to start my own was really scary, because I was like, I've been doing this for years. Like, this is my thing.
Yeah.
So that's really difficult to be able to separate from the two. But I think you're literally fooling no one but yourself, and you're wasting your own time, because you must believe in your own capabilities as an entrepreneur and that you will have another idea. So don't just like literally try to cling on for life onto one idea, because you're not giving the others the chance that they might deserve, the ideas in your head. I said to someone recently, and this is a really weird example, but I was like, think of it like X Factor. Like all of your ideas have to audition to
I love it.
next thing. And that's what I like to think of, like they're all auditioning by doing these little market validation tests. So then which one of them gets to the next stage and gets to the next stage. And they have to fight for your attention, because your attention is limited, where our attention is being attacked left, right, and center by, every sort of social media and things like that. So your attention is so limited. If you're going to focus it on one idea that has won the chance to be the idea that you work on.
Yeah, it's so true. So, so true. And I think it happens so much to entrepreneurs, right? That they just get stuck on that one idea and they're just like, no, we're going to make it happen somehow. Going back, can you tell us a little bit more about, and you've touched off of this a few times, but like, how do you really find that ICP that has that real pain that you're creating a painkiller for?
I think in the early days, just chatting to people, I think as much as you can gather in terms of like my waitlist had not only like, why do you want it? Things like that. what does reformer do for you, things like that. So you can figure out really the emotional side of things, the pain side of things. You know, people talked about having just had surgery and things like that, and having how reformer has helped them, or been, you know, in some sort of rehabilitation for some sort of accident, and how much it helped them there as well. So if people, or some people just like, I just got back into exercise. Reformer is the only exercise I love. I don't want to do anything else. And I think that in itself is so powerful, because like, I don't want to go to the gym every day. I don't want to go to the gym at all, actually, if I'm honest myself. I think when you find an exercise you actually like doing, there is an emotional side of it there. And
Yeah.
I think just finding out what's the why for those people, and, you know, what are they doing now, and why is it not working for them, and what could it look like if they did have this, and
Yeah.
what, you know, how much better could their lives be there. But I think just when I started when I released the launch date. So we just launched in July, and I was just like, let's go. Actually, sorry, I should go back to when you asked me, like, what was the moment of, like, you know, it's the scariest moment.
Yeah.
That moment right there, when I was like, you know, I'm so deluded. God, love me. But I was like, right, I'm going to record on my phone, because, you know, there's going to be so many orders, and I want to catch my reaction. And it was like literally cobwebs. Full on, like in a Western, like just a hero. So, what's going on here, guys? It took, you know, yeah, it wasn't as much as it took like 23 hours within that first day of launching to get the first order. So yeah, that was a long wait.
Oh my
But yeah, but that person there and then just saw the ad and bought the reformer, didn't know anything about the business or whatever previously. So I was like, okay, well, they weren't a follower, they weren't on the wait list. I was like, okay, where's my wait list, girlies? Come on now. But it was people who hadn't even on the wait list.
Wow.
Kind of thing. Like, there was pain points there I didn't even know about. Then I started to run, once people started buying reformers, I then started to run interviews with them to figure out what their pain point was, as part of kind of a UX UI journey. Yeah, with a lot of interviews, maybe 5 or 6 interviews with people to figure out exactly what the pain point was, and what they wanted from it, and what they wanted from the app. So just as much as you can, speaking to customers, have a guess. I predict this is who is going to be my customer. Go after them, and then you'll soon enough find out. Yeah, it's not them. Probably a couple of ages left or right of it, potentially, or a different. You know, and there's a lot of stuff I haven't even. I don't know yet, but I'm hoping over time I'll know more about, in terms of, you know, salaries in Ireland for a specific age compared to salaries in London for a specific age. So it might be in Ireland that it's 35 plus, because that's when people might own a home and have enough money to have a reformer or whatever, compared to London, where they're on high paying jobs, they might be 25 to 35. So there's things around that, around understanding that kind of information around the demographic, that it's just going to take research and reading these reports and stuff like that, and trial and error, I think.
Totally. And then I think you hit the nail on the head as well, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs can get stuck in that research phase around the ICP, whereas it's like, no, just get out there, talk to customers and get the no's, and then eventually you'll get a yes, and there's the beginning of your ICP, right? Yeah, you put the money where the mouth is. Love that. And then how has your entrepreneurial journey transformed you on a personal level?
Wow. I honestly, in so many different ways. I had a lot of social anxiety growing up. So meeting new people and things like that would have absolutely terrified me. And even in a one-to-one or like a networking situation, can I say I now absolutely love networking? No, but I don't hyperventilate when I have to do it. So we're making it, and I have to do it sober. Remember that. So that's also hard. That's difficult. Uh, I think, yeah, so that it's really transformed me in that way. If I am going to meet another female entrepreneur for coffee that I've literally just pinged on LinkedIn, or has followed the Flexera page on Instagram, and I've seen what they've done, now meeting strangers is not something that I fear. It's something that I actually look forward to. I get the chance to meet a new entrepreneur, or whatever, reach out to somebody, ping them and ask them for help, things like that. That all would have absolutely terrified me before doing this. Public speaking, presenting, all of these. You grow so much. And just, I think, creative problem solving as well. And resilience is crazy, honestly. Like the cutbacks that have happened in this startup or in any other startup, and you just have to get up and keep going the next day. There's no other option. You just have to keep it moving and just trust that it'll be fine. And then you look back and you're like, wow, I really didn't get out of bed for 2 days crying because of that. But you're like, I didn't know how lucky I had it when the next one comes. But yeah, it's incredible. It's the most exciting journey I've ever been on. And I don't think I'd ever come off this journey. Oh, except for to invest, obviously, in the future.
Yeah, exactly. um, let's just do a quick round of your wins again. So, started a tech company, failed, picked yourself up like super fast, and went from 0 to over 100 customers in 7 months, which I think is just pretty amazing, really. Identified a huge gap in the market, have an absolute huge passion for what you want to do, and are now looking for investors to really, like, not that you need them because you have a profitable business, but for your world domination and making things go fast. I think it's just all really, really, really super impressive, and an amazing thing to brag about. Anything else that you would like to brag about? I'm going to put you on the spot.
Thank you so much for that. Even it's so funny. Even the fact where you said I'm gonna list your wins here, I just felt like, oh
Yeah,
no, it,
right?
yeah, it's just such a funny response. You're like, oh gosh, now hear me like this. I don't know. I'm hoping. I'm really, yeah. Again, I love this podcast idea, and I love that. Hopefully, as more women come on this and talk about things, we can learn the power of bragging. Yeah, fair play to you.
Thank you.
Anything else to brag about?
Yeah.
Anything else to brag about? I have, oh, I guess this time last year, I was living in a moldy single bed situation that I was, as I mentioned, I was quite low and was sick all the time because of breathing in the mold and had 4 housemates. Well, this is what was my situation when as a 30-year-old woman moving back to Dublin, that was my situation. And now I've just moved into a beautiful 1-bed apartment. So I am really happy about that. And I just that's more like just to tell people, like, no matter what your situation is right now, 12 months down the line, it can be completely different if you just go for it and believe in yourself and yeah, and brag. So other brags, I guess there's some media brags, in terms of there's been a lot of interest from the media, which has been really nice. Got to go on Ireland AM. That was a really exciting and random one. My dad, fair play to him, had to leave Westport and drive up at around 3 a.m., bring up the reformers again and wheel them out and put them onto this stage set of Ireland AM, which was gas. So we were in the background plushing the reformers together while they were live on air. Then we just had to pause like and freeze like it was like, I don't know, some kind of kids game, and then continue really quickly while so it was just madness, but it was a really fun day. And then that was just a great week because we had heard IE and Ireland AM that week. And now and the Sun covered it then as well.
Well,
and they've been in touch as well again, and the Times, which was incredible. And yeah, someone from the Daily Mail has reached out as well. So it's been really exciting to be in touch with the media, something I haven't really done, and I probably should get some media training at some point.
and then you had a school contact you recently, is what you were saying?
Yes. So this was a really random one, and probably one of my favorite ones, but so randomly, an author of school books, so an author of the business book for the Leaving Cert,
Yeah.
reached out, saw the article in the Irish Times, and asked could Flexera be part of one of the case studies in the books. So I just thought this is my fort. This is my moment because I nearly nearly failed business in school, so that's kind of hilarious. I just couldn't balance those balance sheets for sure. My teacher was very sure I was going to fail, so I can't wait to, now that teacher might have to teach my company in schools.
You'll be going and giving inspirational chats next, Hannah.
Now, do you think that schools do need that? Because we did, entrepreneurship modules within TY and stuff, but it was always like make believe. It was never like you can legitimately do this. It was very much like we're gonna fake be entrepreneurs this week, and next week we're gonna be fake lawyers, and we're gonna do a mock, court case. So I think there needs to be just like I like that we do it, but there just needs to be a final push that's like, no, this is you can do this actually. This is it doesn't have to be fake.
Yes, exactly. And I think what makes it even more amazing, again, just to brag for you a little bit, is the fact that like you have just done this by yourself. Like you've identified a gap in the market. You don't have like a huge group of investors behind you. You've just literally gone out there, sold, enlisted all your family and your friends, and just made this happen in such a short time. So absolutely amazing. And I'm going to link all of those articles and your socials and the website down below so people can check out Flexera.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Leah.
Thank you, Hannah.